The mid-size SUV segment is the most saturated segment you can find in India. There are so many options here that it boils down to exactly what you're looking for in your car. For example, if you want features, you go for a Hyundai or a Kia SUV. If you want driving dynamics, you go for a Skoda or a Volkswagen. If you want a car that sips dinosaur juice efficiently, you go for a Maruti or a Toyota. What cars am I talking about? Do let us know in the comments below. Now, next to me is the Citroen C3 Aircross. This car is the newest entrant in this segment. How does a car stand out in such a saturated space? That's what I'm here to find out. If you like this video, do like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is Evo India. I'm Anand Mohan. Let's get driving. Welcome to the interior of the Citroen C3 Aircross. As the name suggests, this car is based on the C3, the same CMP platform, but it's a segment above the C3. I don't know why do they name the same cars for different segments. That really messes things up in terms of the customer trying to buy a car. So for example, someone looking for a SUV in this segment might probably look at the C3 Aircross and think, why am I buying a car that otherwise it seems like an extension of a car in the segment below? So yeah, that's something maybe Citroen needs to look at. Now back to the C3 Aircross. It goes up against the Kushaq and the Taigun, the Grand Vitara, the Hyryder, the Seltos and the Creta. So the competition is really tough in this segment. So how does this car stand out? Powering the C3 Aircross is the same 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbo-petrol engine from the C3. It makes 108.5 bhp, 190 Newton meters of torque. It is mated to the same 6-speed manual gearbox. This gearbox is notchy. The clutch is not very heavy, but the gearbox does feel a little notchy. Now in this segment you get the 1 litre and the 1.5 litre turbo petrols. This car goes up against the smaller engines in the segment, and I'm pretty sure that Citroen will have to price the car accordingly. It's not a very sprightly performer in the segment. In the C3, this engine feels like it's got some legs, but this car is heavier. It's about 200 kilos heavier than the C3. Larger wheels. It also gets the 7-seat combination, so that adds to its weight. The C3 Aircross doesn't feel like a very sprightly performer, and it also comes with only a manual gearbox. It doesn't get the automatic gearbox. A lot of things are missing on the car, and it is going to be again a product that Citroen has built to a price. Costing is going to be a key factor in drawing people to showrooms. There's of course the design, but besides that, in terms of performance, there's nothing that the C3 Aircross offers that you don't get in this segment. In fact, the segment is ahead of the C3 Aircross on the performance front. Now driving long distance in this car is going to be very relaxing because I've got a nice armrest, the seats are lovely, the driving position is nice. Smashing it over the bad roads here, this car just goes through everything. It takes on bad roads like a champ, and that's something that really works in a country like India. You can really power it through all the stuff that's thrown at you, every kind of potholes, everything. This car just hammers through everything, and that is its USP. It may not have the best performance in the segment, it may not have an automatic gearbox, it doesn't have a lot of features. And the good thing about the ride quality is that the faster you go, the better it gets. It takes on potholes and undulations with a lot of poise. On the handling front, it's not the sprightliest handler, but it's not bad actually. The C3, it rolled a lot, but this Aircross, it doesn't roll as much. It takes corners with ease. I've got to say the C3 Aircross does look handsome in pictures as it does in real life. And from the front especially, it looks nice and muscular. Of course, it looks similar to the C3, but it's got these nice bulging arches. The front bumper, the lower end, it looks different from the C3. You've got multiple colors going on, the whites and the grays, but besides that, looks quite nice. You get only regular halogens though. That's a bit of a miss in this segment. The C3 Aircross does feel like a bit of a step down in terms of the equipment that this car carries, and it even shows in the headlamps. You get these DRLs here on both sides. They look quite cool, but the headlamps, well, they're regular halogens. And you get your fog lamps in the bumper. Now let's move to the side and I'll show you what it feels like and looks like from the side. Now when you look at this car from the side, you can find out how much bigger this car is compared to a C3. The Aircross is a much bigger car, goes up against the likes of the Creta. It gets 17-inch wheels, very beautiful alloy wheels, nice chunky designs. You get this black wing mirrors, and of course you get dual tone options now with the roof. So you get this white roof with this blue color. Looks really nice. This color is nice with the blue and the white combination. The interesting thing again, it gets that manual key unlock sort of thing. Of course you get the keyless entry, but when was the last time you saw this? Now let's move to the rear. I'll show you the rear of the car. You get 444 liters of boot space in the C3 Aircross 5-seater, but you get 511 liters in the 5+2. Why is that? We'll find out in the video ahead. But then back to the design of the C3 Aircross. The rear end of the Aircross looks quite smart, nice and high set. You do get a rear wiper in the Aircross. In the C3 you don't get that. Otherwise, looks really smart on the rear end of this car. You get the PureTech badge, that's for the 1.2 turbo petrol. You don't get a naturally aspirated motor in this car. The C3 Aircross badge over there, and then overall it's a really smartly styled car. The unique thing about the C3 Aircross is that it's the only car in its segment that offers a 5+2 seating configuration, 3 rows of seats. Let's find out what the space is like on the inside. The C3 Aircross launches in September and deliveries begin in October. So we don't know what the pricing is going to be like, but I'd assume that Citroen will have to undercut its rivals to be competitive in this segment. It misses out on a lot of features. For instance, you don't get a start-stop button. Instead, you get a regular key to crank it. You get only 2 power window switches over here. You don't get 4, so you can't control the rear windows. You don't get cruise control. You don't get climate control. You don't get wireless charging. You don't get a Type-C port for charging. You get only a manual gearbox. You don't get an automatic gearbox in the C3 Aircross. You get only leather seats without cooling. And this segment now you do get cooling in a lot of the cars in this segment. So yeah, it misses out on a lot of features. One thing I do like though is this armrest. Sit nicely and cruise. Without cruise control, of course. The C3 Aircross is a very comfortable car even in the back seat. The seats are very comfortable, nice and soft and comfortable. You do lack a little bit of under thigh support, but good knee room, good headroom. You get the power window switches in the center, which is a bit of a stretch instead of having it on the door. Again, get Type A USB ports here. You get a lap belt for the center passengers, but at least there's a central armrest with cup holders here. Overall, the 5-seater doesn't get AC vents on the back, but the 7-seater does get AC vents on top. That we'll show you when we hop into the 7-seater. Hopping in the third row is fairly easy. You pull a string here for the seat to tumble, but once you try to get in, it's quite cramped over here. Finding space to get in is difficult, and then, well, you can't sit here for too long. It's a short drive at the most in the back seat. Now, as I said, the C3 Aircross doesn't get a sunroof, but in the 7-seater, in the 5+2 configuration, there's one new addition to the 7-seater. It gets these air vents on the roof, and there is no central armrest for the middle seat. The C3 Aircross third row can be completely taken off. Tell me which other car has this feature. Citroen says this seat can come off in less than 60 seconds, so let's find out. There's a tag here and oh, there it is. The C3 Aircross is a front-wheel drive monocoque SUV, but to showcase its robustness, to showcase its approach and departure angles, Citroen has made this small off-road track where we take it through a few axle articulation sections, through water wading sections, and find out how robust this car is and what all it can handle despite being just a front-wheel drive SUV. The C3 Aircross is a front-wheel drive SUV, but it's got 200 mm of ground clearance, and Citroen says that it's a robust car and is comfortable on the inside. And to showcase that, they've taken us to an off-road course specially curated to showcase how this car handles each of the obstacles. Big boulders, alternate logs, some axle articulation, a lot of challenges thrown at this SUV to showcase how well it performs on these obstacles. So we're putting the SUV through each obstacle. The first one that's in front of me right now is the side tilted curve. Let's see how it does. Just take it in first gear and light inputs of throttle. Now we're going through a series of negative articulations in front of us. Kind of easy, but then again it's a curated course, so it's basically not gonna hit anything unless I basically mess up. This is a sausage obstacle, and then you go through go above a small mound that's 3 feet tall. Straight side tilt coming up next. Honestly, this is quite a lot of fun to do. But initial impressions, the car feels tough on the inside. It feels like it can take on these obstacles quite easily. Just take it in first gear. I don't even have to use the clutch most of the time. It's also got hill hold, so there's this small hill, a 6-foot hill that has been created. I'm gonna stop here, brake and put off the brake, and it rolls back after a few seconds. Now to showcase its ground clearance, there are a few obstacles in front of me, like a small rock bed where it goes up through. There are some big sharp stones under this, and the car just takes it quite easily. And then there's positive articulation here. We did negative articulation back there. And now one small easy water wading obstacle, and that's about it. Of course, I'm not splashing water because I've got an instructor sitting in the back seat. But yeah, that was it. Some small fun to have in a front wheel drive SUV. The Citroen C3 Aircross quite honestly doesn't make any big headlines. It's just another SUV in this segment. But this car is the only car where you get a 5+2 seating configuration. A lot of Indians want 3 rows of seats, and if Citroen prices this car well, we will have to see whether a lot of people gravitate towards the C3 Aircross just because of that 3rd row of seats. And every manufacturer is going to be looking at the Aircross for this. If it works, it's going to be a winner for Citroen. If not, well, this is just going to be lost in this saturated SUV space.